much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. And now here's your host, Rich Barris.
All right, folks, welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, People's Pundit, and today's makeup show for me missing Wednesday last week. All right, I don't want to keep him waiting too long, so I'm going to bring him on. I know he's got things he's got to do. I just want to say before I start this that you might have noticed Doug Ducey's own pollster. Just all the abuse last week I took with that poll, and Doug Ducey's own pollster just came out. And so far, I saw the governor's. I'm sure it says the same thing with the Senate if they're polling that as well. But the fact of the matter is, CD Media poll definitely had Kerry Lake leading and our next guest leading, which I'm going to bring in right now. Ladies and gentlemen, the front runner for the Republican nomination, Blake Masters. How you doing, buddy? Thanks for joining Inside the Numbers.
Good to see you, Rich. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking the time on the campaign trail when it gets this close, especially. I understand it gets really busy. Look, you know, it's funny. I kind of love it when this happens. You know, we came out with the poll. We spent days in the field even after the endorsements and the establishment trying to get involved with your races out there just to see if there really was any movement. And the fact of the matter is, you rose in the undecideds, like your lead got bigger. So what's doing it? What's resonating? I mean, even before the Trump endorsement, you were out there making noise and the party loved you, you know? So what are you talking about out there that's doing this?
You know, I'm talking about the issues that matter, although a lot of people are. I think the differentiation is how I talk about it. I don't sound and look and feel just like a traditional politician. You know, obviously, yeah, the border is completely wide open. It's on fire right now. And inflation is going crazy. My competitors are talking about this stuff too, but man, to me, it just feels wooden when they do it, robotic. You know, they got the political consultants who are drafting their talking points, and it shows. Whereas I'm actually just like a normal business guy who's pissed off at what's happening, you know, and I'm speaking frankly and from the heart, and I think with clarity about these issues, so people can tell I'm for real. I'm not a BS phony guy like some of my competitors. And I think when people really tune in here right before Election Day, they can tell I'm a real person who knows how to take the fight to the left.
You know, speaking of, Mark Kelly is not the same kind of senator as Kyrsten Sinema, right? He's got a lot of money, though, and he has been voting far to the left of Sinema. So, you know, the idea of whether or not he's too left wing for Arizona, how are you gonna get that across? Because what we found in the general election is that he is fighting for his life. I mean, this is a state that's hard to poll. And in 2020, there was a group of men that really people couldn't reach, and you're doing well with those men. So what are you going to tell them come November, if and when you win the nomination come November? And what are you going to tell them, is different about you than McSally? Because McSally just couldn't close that. She couldn't close that sale like President Trump could in that state.
Yeah, this time, you know, Mark Kelly has a track record. In 2020, he was a purely biographical candidate, you know, fighter pilot, astronaut, married to Gabby Giffords, all that stuff. And that's all good, whatever. But now he's got a track record. And like you said, Rich, he's just voting. He's basically like voting for Bernie Sanders. He's voting for the Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, open borders, inflation agenda. And he pretends to be a moderate. That's his whole shtick. But actually, he's just as radical as Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders. And so, look, it won't be easy in the general election, and they're going to have more money. I got to raise the money to get the message out. But the message is simple, and it's simply true. It's that Mark Kelly is lying. He is far too left for Arizona. He's voting for all the crazy trillions in spending that have delivered this inflation. He's voted to legalize abortion nationwide up until the moment of birth, which is really just so radical when you stop to think about it. And so if I just expose his left-wing voting record and tell people don't listen to his lies about being a moderate, because he's not. He's an extremist. I think we win.
Yeah, I guess this is something I've been meaning to ask you. I'm getting you on the show. I think sometimes the best thing that could happen to a party is losing sometimes. I really do. Because I feel like it always brings this new blood forward. And I wanted to ask you this. If things didn't go the way they went in 2020, could you see yourself running for the seat right now?
Well, no, not, right? I mean, McSally would be incumbent. It would have been a primary race. No, I don't defend losing. I think losing is always bad, although I take your point. There's a logic to it. But I can't change what happened in 2018 or 2020. All
Right.
I know is the time is now, right? The time is now for me to go in and beat Mark Kelly. Not only, like, that's just half the job, right? Throwing out the horrible Democrat. But my job,
right.
once I'm in the Senate, is to show such new and bold leadership and really materially change the way that place works, because things are just broken right now.
Yeah, and that's another, that's another whole side to this. When you get there, how do you see yourself in that Senate conference, Blake? There's going to be without a doubt, there's going to be new senators, right? There's going to be new blood, but the leadership has tried to thwart that every step of the way. They're in there, they're spending money on Ukraine. I mean, I think this is part of the reason why you're ahead. They're just doing what the voters don't want them to do, and they're looking for somebody to fight, for them, and they can't imagine why their leaders continuously do this. How do you see this when you get there? I mean, you don't expect it to be easy, but not as a role as just a leadership is different than troublemaking, is my point, right?
Yeah,
Gotta
look,
teach them how
it'll
to
be
fight
very
again.
frustrating. That's right. It'll be very frustrating, no doubt. And yeah, I'm only one vote in the United States Senate, but I do think, we got to recognize saving this country is not a one-year project. We might be able to get less done in 1 year than we might hope, but over 5 or 6 years, right? Over 10 or 12 years, we can get a whole lot done. And it starts with just a few people. Like, pretty soon, I'll be in there. I'll join Josh Hawley, who's endorsed me in this race. Fantastic U.S. Senator. J.D. Vance, who of course won his primary in Ohio. He's going to win in November. So pretty soon we're going to have a young and dynamic America First caucus in the U.S. Senate. We can rope in Rand Paul and work together on some stuff. And that snowballs, right? Then maybe we inspire more people like us to run and win in 2024 and 2026. And all of a sudden we've changed the balance of power in the U.S. Senate, I think, for the benefit of this country.
Yeah, I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but this is something that jumped right out at me in that poll that we did. We asked, it's Arizona, so we asked things about generation. Were you born in the state of Arizona? The coalitions that support you and the other Trump-endorsed candidate for statewide office, well, there are two, the Secretary of State as well, but Carrie Lake. The difference in the coalitions, younger, Blake, younger people, more diverse, of Republican, Hispanic primary voters, you have the lead there. So what does this mean? What does this race mean for the future of the party going forward here? I mean, this party's in an identity crisis. Do you see it that way?
That's right. Absolutely. We have this whole question. Is the Republican Party going to revert and return to being the party of Paul Ryan and Mitt Romney? And we can't do that. The answer is no, by the way. But the other option is, can we continue the work that President Trump got started? Can we rebuild the Republican Party into this America First party? That's pro-business, but also is pro-family and pro-worker, right? And the reason we're attracting this young and diverse coalition is because we're not pandering. I don't go up to young people and say, hello, fellow young people. I'm just young, and so I understand this stuff, right? You don't go to South Tucson to South Phoenix and pander to Hispanics, but you show up and you talk about inflation and schools and crime. And then it turns out most people are very attracted to this America First agenda, which is why we're going to crush it in November.
Yeah, Charlie Kirk, we were going over it with Charlie Kirk. He called it the Joe Rogan voter. You have that appeal to the Joe Rogan voter. And in 2020, McSally didn't, so it's a big deal. That was a big difference between her performance and President Trump's performance. And I think part of it too is authenticity. You're not a politician. So people like that, especially that voter. They like that. So how was that rally? How was that rally on Friday? I mean, I was watching, but you got to be there to really feel the energy of a Trump rally. You think that helped close the deal? How was that energy?
Oh, I'm sure it did. And, the stadium was packed. I think it fit more than 6,000 people. President Trump was in good form. I'd been to Trump rallies before, but this was my first time on stage, right? So it's a surreal experience to get to speak to that many people and rally up the crowd. And so it was great. And, all the media wrote about it. So I think it probably did give me and Kerry a nice little lift here as we try to close out this primary, which is on August 2nd.
Yeah, I guess too, you have the Trump rally and then you have the day-to-day campaigning that you're doing. We actually didn't ask about number one issues. We focused more on just, the vote and getting and polling as many races as we could in that. What's the number one issue when you're walking around the state? Is it inflation hands down going away, or, you see, obviously there are other things on people's minds, but people are hurting.
It's so tough. I mean, I would say the border is probably still just top of mind. Every single demographic, every single person I talk to, the border. But inflation's right up there, and election integrity very, very often with people is right up there. So it's really hard to choose, which is the most important issue. I think all three of those are absolutely urgent and existential. And there's plenty more important issues too, right? But priority number one, I think, has to just be we seal this southern border. We stop illegal immigration. It's just so crazy right now.
Yeah, and there's a difference between people who have plans, Blake, and have they come out with their 6-point plans, and this is what I'm going to do if I'm elected. I think the people are just at the point where they're just looking for somebody. Everyone's got a plan, right? So what separates candidates? It's who do I trust to actually deliver on those plans. So that's it. Well, you're not taking anything for granted going into this final stretch here, right? What do you guys have planned for the week before I let you run? You're on the road right now, so you're working it.
Driving down to Santa Cruz County. I have a border tour, visiting with some ranchers, and then I have a couple of town hall type events. Tomorrow, back up to Maricopa County. We've got 2 or 3 events every day. Of course, I'm still raising money, hammering the phones, and it's firing on all cylinders. We're not taking anything for granted.
Yeah, there it is. Actually, there are the numbers right there for Maricopa. So we separate Maricopa, Pima, and the rest of the state. You currently had a lead in the entire, but you're not taking it for granted. That's what matters. But I'll let you run. But before I do, tell people, give people why. I mean, the Senate race was a little bit different. Polling the Senate race, you saw some people drop in the gubernatorial election, and you have competition. So give people, the 60-second on why you're running, why they should vote for you as opposed to your opponents, and we'll let you run.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And look, I try not to go out of my way to bash my opponents, right? We got one guy in the race who's doing that. He's unloaded $6 or $7 million in negative attack ads against me. And I don't believe in that. A, I don't believe it works. And B, I don't believe it's particularly ethical. So we'll let them talk mess. I just think I'm the best and most substantive, most dynamic candidate in the race. Like I said, we all talk about some of the same issues. I think I do it better. And I think people can tell I'm more sincere and I'm going to be more effective. But Rich, I'm also talking about the new modern threats like big tech, right? I have a plan to break them up. I know that stuff real well. ESG scores and Chinese-style social credit systems, right? Why are Chinese nationals, and Bill Gates for that matter, why are they buying up all this farmland, right? What do they have planned for us? Why are we letting this happen? And so I think I'm just more in touch and dynamic. I also know how to fight the left. Like the New York Times attacks me, and we find a way to turn that right back around and throw it in their faces. And it's just a level of fight, that I learned from President Trump that I think most Republicans lack. So we think we're going to win here on August 2nd, and I'll be by far the most effective candidate at tying Mark Kelly to his left-wing voting record.
Yeah, some of these attacks are just falling flat. I meant to put that up. I saw it on Twitter the other day. They just made you look like a boss. I mean, it was the most ridiculous attack ever. He showed up looking like this, and it's like, people, they must not really understand people, because that's what people want. That's how they themselves like to have the world see them, and I think they've got it in their heads, masculinity or certain things about is bad, is negative, where the public, they don't view that stuff like this anymore, Blake, and I don't know that they ever will. They reject it, but in their world it's a negative. It's ridiculous, but that's what, again, I really do think that's what separates the new America First candidates from what we've had in the past. They themselves don't understand that. And they're afraid. It makes them afraid. as opposed to, the candidates like you and Vance and others, where you guys just charge forward. You know what's at stake, and people are with you, so you do it anyway. That's it.
That's right. That's right. Well said.
All right. Well, I'll let you run, my friend. Be good. Stay cool. Must be hot out there at this point, but we'll be keeping an eye out on August 2nd. Keep an eye on you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, Rich.
All right. All the best, Blake. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks. Bye.
Blake Masters, ladies and gentlemen, very easy to talk to, dude. This is the difference. Again, this is the difference. He just didn't come across as a politician at all. I wanted to show that, by the way, and I'm going to show that poll here in a second. Boy, it doesn't bother me when, people are like, it's ridiculous. People aren't opening up leads like this. They are. He is. Kerry Lake is. Now others are starting to show that. I think that's why I think really authenticity is where it comes down. We'll show you this in a bit, by the way. That one candidate in Blake Masters' race, you had, I would say, more viable candidates. Not the number of candidates. It's more viable. Like he said, we don't have to bring them up, but one is spending a ton of money to attack, has raised money, has his own too. And there's more choices viability-wise and then in the governor's race. So I think that's why we're seeing that. But one candidate did start to crater at the end of last week, and we're going to pop that up. All right. But listen, if you haven't checked it out, I'll do it now. I know he said go ahead and put it up there. The only thing that hasn't started to blow open in Arizona is the Secretary of State race. I'll show that to you. There have been these huge numbers of undecideds in a race like Secretary for State, definitely in other states too. Just undecideds in general have tended to be big this year until the final end, and when we get to the final week. But in the Secretary of State race, I mean, it's almost it's not even discernible. There's so many undecideds that it could change the complete total outcome. That being said, I will put it up and we'll take a look at it because one candidate did have a lead. All right, so let's hear. You know what? You'll follow along with me while I do it here. Come on, let's go. Load up. Just can't see my password. But Mark Fincham, endorsed by Donald Trump, does absolutely have right now an edge. But again, it's kind of like Georgia. Think about that. In the Secretary of State's race in Georgia, it looked like among those who were decided, Jody Heiss actually was doing a lot better than he performed ultimately on Election Day. When there are that many undecided, you can't take anything for granted. Now, in the case of Blake's race, there were about half that did decide from that Monday or Tuesday, really, till about Thursday, Friday, when I started to show you those numbers. Blake Masters is at 31 in the poll we released, and here it is again. But if we add those undecideds from the end of the week, then Lamont is at 22. Blake Masters is at 35, just about 35, and Brnovich fell to about just under 12%. So it's now really, in our polling, becoming a two-person race, but obviously Masters has a pretty significant lead. All right, let's bring up the Secretary of State. All right. Oh, this is the whole entire primary, actually, but these are my crosstabs. Go check out cdm.press to get all of the articles, up-to-date articles. You can see Fincham here, 22%. He leads. Bo Lane, who's at 12. The other two candidates, about 7 and 8%. Even with, and I'll show you this as well, the decideds really did not break in that race. So we're still looking at, roughly half. I think 48. It went from 52 to about 48, and I'm going to check it right now. But no movement, not enough movement to say, okay, we're seeing this race break in one direction or the other. Not like the Senate, not like the governor's race. And by the way, like I said, the governor's race, Data Orbital, which apparently is Ducey's own pollster, this person trying to frame the race as a Ducey versus Trump was the dumbest possible thing Robson could have done. She has since lost support as a result. And they have Kerry Lake at 44, Karen Taylor Robson at 32.4. And that's pretty funny because I'm going to show you right now. This is who, the Secretary of State, guys, it is what it is. And there's no reason to go through a whole lot of the demographics. As far as enthusiasm goes, that may be something worth looking at. Mark Fincham's enthusiasm gap is very, very big, extremely 27.4 to 14.3 in his closest competitor, Bo Lane. Very is 14.2, closest competitor 8.4 again. Michelle is the closest after that. So we're looking at these. Why does this matter? Because extremely enthusiastic is 97+% likely to vote. So the likelihood, it absolutely, it doesn't, I mean, I'm sure it influences it in some regard. We don't use enthusiasm for a likely voter model, but it does tell you when somebody is more likely to vote in some cases. And in this case, it's absolutely true. And we put that up on CD Media, by the way. You can read it there. But let me get rid of this. Let me bring up. Okay, where are my undecideds here? Give me 1 second, guys. Oh, that's because this is combined. All right, 1 second. Yeah, let's just look at the undecideds. Also, check out by mode. If they took the survey, if you go and look at the crosstabs from CD Media, if they took the survey by different modes, you'll see, especially in the general election matchups, where it's really interesting. So Blake Masters leads Mark Kelly pretty considerably. In those who did it peer-to-peer SMS, all right? He same thing with Kerry Lake, leads Hobbs by 6 points among people who took it that way. The reason why some of these OSPs are really bombing it, you see Morning Consult and others, YouGov, there's too many. COVID made some of these panels way too liberal. And you had all of these Zoomers who just were like sitting around wondering, what am I going to do? And they hated Donald Trump. They had all this time on their hands and they signed up for these panels. The vendors know it. Even the Amerispeaks people, everybody, whether it doesn't matter what panel you use, everyone understands. That's why it's that important to dedupe against a voter file, because a lot of these people are just, really high interest voters and they don't represent the entire electorate. So these consumer panels are really blowing the Metro vote way too much in the sampling. Overall, if they took it through SMS, which has been more accurate this year, I mean, that's the $64,000 question, right? Which one has been more accurate? Well, when it came to Virginia, all these other primaries we've polled, privately and publicly, for clients, and SMS has been more accurate. All right. So that matters. And check that out if you get a chance. But okay, we got my undecideds. Yeah, here we go. All right. I don't mean to laugh. I'm not being arrogant here. I don't want it to come across as arrogance. It's just that it happens every time. I release a poll. This is the way it is. This is what this is what we're finding. And there's always these critics that, say with it, oh, Lake does not lead by that much. Blake Masters is not winning by that much. Okay, whatever. So does Doug Ducey's pollster get the same criticism I get? Okay, let's take a look at last of these. A little bit. If those of you who were watching on Friday, you saw that. Extremely likely. It's pretty nice sample there. Certain to vote. We would cut these people out. Certain not to vote. As long if they don't have a vote history, all right, then they're out of there. What's up? Looks like Laura's trying to flag me. What's up?
Interrupting you.
Interrupt.
I just want to say happy birthday, happy 60th birthday, Mad Mom, and thanks for hanging out with us.
Oh, really? We got a birthday?
Birthday girl.
Happy 60th birthday! Wow, good for you. Good for you. This is, again, thank you for sharing it with us. This would not be what it was when it was weighted, but it is worth noting that Karen Taylor Robeson, even with these people deciding, again, you see that? It cut in half. She's at 34. Kerry Lake is a little bit above 50. So if we were to put together the results that we had with the people that have decided, you're probably going to end up somewhere in the ballpark of Kerry Lake 45, Karen Taylor Robeson at like 31, something in that ballpark, because you have to, and that's pretty close to this 44-32. All right, so for people who didn't see that as well, so that's where we're at, and the same is true of our guests race, and you can still see here, Fincham, people are not deciding; they're just not. It came down from 52 to 49.8. That's nothing. And then you can see here, Blake Masters is obviously gaining when the decideds are deciding. Quite a few did. Jim Lamont went to 22. Mark Brnovich fell to just under 12. So, not headed in the right direction for Brnovich. All right. I'm not real keen on, what it is. I know some people that support Brnovich that are interested in election integrity. I'm just not totally on board with what some people were mad at him with. But at the end of the day, I guess, the bottom line is, I think Blake said it right. People are looking for something new, and they're looking for somebody who knows how to fight the left and truly understands. I think this is what Republican primary voters want. They want people who truly understand how the left fights, what they're going to be in for, and then will not cave to that. Already is well aware that this is what they're up against and doesn't want and will not cave to it and will continue to fight. I mentioned that attack on Masters. I mean, it was hilarious. They're like, he comes sharply dressed and he walks stoic. I mean, it was the most ridiculous, right, Laura? It's the most ridiculous attack. And I'm like, this makes him sound like a boss. This makes him sound like a boss. Nobody thinks this is a bad thing. I don't know if you guys read it, but you should. It's hilarious. It was the New York Times. And they're so stupid, they actually think that that's going to hurt him or something. All right. So, so here we have this. Thank you, Will, for sending this to me, by the way. They have Kerry Lake slightly. No, that's about where we're at 43 rounded in the CD media poll. So ultimately, oh, right. Do I have these loaded up? There's something I did want to show you guys, which is going to matter when we talk about the general elections. All right. And actually, I could just bring CD media up here. Let's do that. I don't need the crosstabs. CD has the, they have the, here we go. They have the graphics that I'm talking about. I still am a little bit messed up here and swollen. So if I'm not my usual punchy at a nice pace, okay? It's doing its thing. It's loading up. Okay, here we go. This is Kelly versus Masters. And just so everybody understands, media has a budget. And I'm not being unfair to the other candidates by not pitting them up against. I actually think they should just take it as a win, because Masters is the strongest Senate candidate in a general election against Mark Kelly, and Kerry Lake is the strongest gubernatorial candidate against Katie Hobbs. So you guys should take this as W's, that you don't see what those numbers look like. All right, so I saw some of that. Why did you just do the front runners? Well, they only have so much. Like I said, they have to make decisions, editorial decisions. The leads for Lake and Masters were so big, I said, just spend the budget on that. I mean, we can do it, but it also costs money to put it forward to you guys. So it's not, honestly, if it's limited, that's the reason. Bottom line here is Masters is actually pretty close. Any incumbent who's below 45 or around 45 and below, people say lower than 50. And yeah, technically that's true. I just tend to think it's more of like the mid 40s and down. Any incumbent that's in that ballpark is in deep trouble, because you have to look at who is undecided and why they're not voting for them. What Blake Masters said before, Mark Kelly now has a record. He's got a lot of money to make himself look like a Republican. He's got a lot of crooked elected Republicans who are doing, what they did against David in California. Republicans for Mark Kelly. The truth is, those are just spiteful McCain wingers that are getting smaller and smaller every year. Now, the truth of it is that generational stuff matters. In the end, those, I hate to use the word, but there is no other word to use. That group of voters is a dying group. They're shrinking. They're not young. They're not dynamic. There's nothing to perpetuate them as a coalition. Whereas the America First coalition is younger. It's the future. So every year you're going to hear these little faint, more and more, they'll grow more and more faint as the years go on. You know, these objections, Republicans for Mark Kelly. Those people are going to get smaller and smaller as time goes on. In fact, right now, they have an outsized voice because they have friends in the media. But the truth is, they're really nothing as far as the party's concerned. Blake Masters could win more crossover Democrats and make up for them. It really will come down to how he does with independents. Here's the big deal. Let me get some water here. I get a lot of people who don't seem to understand these graphics and what they mean. And that's fine, because we're going to go over them. These are 100% stacked bar graphs, which means don't look at it from left to right. Look at it from up and down. Okay? They're really, or I said bar because they're going left and right with the axis. But you really should be looking at them as columns. Okay? So don't look left to right. Look at them as columns. Because some people are like, well, with the governor's race, somebody had sent a comment that said, you're skewing it, making it look like Robeson has more support than she does. It's not skewed. It's a different kind of graphic. And if you pay attention, I'll teach you how to read it. You should be looking by color and up and down. All right. So you're looking not at strongly approved left to right, somewhat approved left to right. You're looking at what's in the legend by color, and you're looking at it up and down. So if you take Mark Kelly, obviously, his vote share comes from strongly approve. The size of it is represented by his vote share, not by more people strongly approving or somewhat approving, because the truth is there are less people who strongly approve of the job Joe Biden is doing, but it makes up for a disproportionate share of Mark Kelly's vote, his vote. Does that make sense to you guys a little bit more? All right. And then somewhat approve, because people say, well, it's only 26 compared to 46. Right. But that's because somewhat approve, the share that Mark Kelly's vote makes up of, that people who said they're somewhat approve, is slightly smaller. Okay. All right. So point being, the point of this chart is to show you, look at undecided in light pink all the way over here. Okay. There's almost no someone else in the undecideds, obviously, because they're not, right? So if you look at undecided and you look at the amount of people that approve or disapprove the job Joe Biden is doing, it's absolutely astronomical. 76.5% of the undecided vote at least somewhat disapproves of the job Joe Biden is doing. More than half of undecided voters in the race for U.S. Senate, Blake Masters against Mark Kelly, more than half of them strongly disapprove of the job Joe Biden is doing as president. More than half. Another quarter, roughly, somewhat disapprove. Only 19.1% at least somewhat approve of the job Joe Biden is doing. Why did I show you this chart? Because while Mark Kelly has a 44 to 41% lead on a likely voter screen that hasn't been tightened all that much, because you can see in a second, I'm going to show you this, that the most enthusiastic and likely voters are voting for Masters. What do you think is going to happen when those people decide? You think they're going to vote for Barack Obama's party? Joe Biden's party? Freudian slip. The relationship between presidential approval and midterm performance is written in stone. I don't have to argue it. The fact is, if you take this into consideration and you allocate some of the undecideds, you have them both tied at around 47%. Add to that a slight enthusiasm edge, and you have an early poll that's actually pretty good news for Blake Masters and Republicans in general. We're going to look at that again, too. The generic ballot lead for Republicans is significant. And it shows you that the people who are undecided here also so happen to disapprove of the job Joe Biden's doing, also so happen to be voting Republican at the House level. All the competitive seats are leaning Republican in Arizona right now. Every single one of them. You don't think that's going to impact how these voters decide they're going to vote for the Senate? Why? Because it's Mark Kelly and he's a so-called moderate? I don't think so. Mark Pryor was a moderate. He got crushed. He was the so-called moderate too. Also had quite a bit of money. Claire McCaskill had a ton of money. She was a moderate, got crushed. You get swept away. And by the way, that was a pro-blue year. In a pro-blue year, McSally almost beat Sinema. We're not going to talk about 2020. I think we all know. That was a different story. And McSally did not perform with those voters that we were talking with Blake Masters about. She did not perform at the level that Donald Trump performed. All right, that's just a fact. And I can show you that in the polling if we go back and look at the polling in Arizona. All right, CD Media Big Data Poll finds Mark Kelly is fighting for his political life, 43.7 to 40.6 with 7.8, opting for someone else. This will also shrink, by the way, and another 8% who are undecided. This someone else will shrink. That's going to happen. And when it does, which way is it going to go? 8% is opting to vote for someone else. 70% of them strongly disapprove of the job Joe Biden is doing. 70%. Another 14% somewhat disapprove. Only 16.4% approve, at least somewhat. So when this shrinks, and it's not a third-party vote, that's 8%, it won't be. That's not going to happen. They're going to shrink, and they're going to shrink, and they're going to go to Blake Masters. Disproportionately. 3-1. 2-1 at least. If not 3-1. All right. So, look. Again, why does this matter? Fewer Democrats this year in Arizona are extremely enthusiastic. 53.2% of Democrats said they were extremely enthusiastic. That compared to 64.5% of Republicans who said they were extremely enthusiastic. That's an 11.3% enthusiasm edge for the GOP. And Blake Masters leads Mark Kelly among those who are extremely enthusiastic to vote, 46.9 to 40 flat. Nearly all voters, 97.4%, who reported being extremely enthusiastic, also report to be certain to vote in November. You see why enthusiasm matters? That certainty to vote compares to just 55.7% who are moderately enthusiastic and 39.8% who are slightly, and 57.9% who are not at all enthusiastic. All right, so you can see the red column there. Again, this graph gives you a better example of how I'm telling you to read these graphs. Not on a horizontal axis by each label, but on a column, vertical axis. Extremely has its own column. Total has its own column. Very has its own column. And each size of them is a share of its own column. All right. Of those most likely to vote, the two candidates are tied, 43.3. Kelly's lead comes from those who are less certain to vote, 45.5 to 27.2. And why is that so low for Masters? Because these people are largely undecided. The less inclined to vote on the Democratic side is more decided than on the Republican side. That probably has to do with two things. One being that Republicans have a competitive primary. Because we saw in the governor's race, and let's see if I have this. Yeah. We saw in the governor's race that indeed the bottom line is there are a chunk of Republicans who are like, want to take their ball and go home. If Kari Lake wins, that will obviously shrink. Lake has a lead over Hobbs right now. And if we just skip ahead to likelihood to vote, by the way, you can see that the truth is Lake probably has a bigger lead than it looks. That's the truth of it. Again, it's the middle of the summer. It's not the Labor Day likely voter model time to really get, we were being a little bit more generous. Plus, I think we're going to have to look at the primary vote to see what participation really is going to look like. But at the end of the day, this was a safe bet. And I think you have some Democrats who are, I know you have some Democrats who are just not at all happy with their choice for governor. They're not stoked about Katie Hobbs at all. Apparently, she's had quite a few little scandal issues, and they don't like her. That Aaron Lieberman and, Marco Lopez, I think they're looking at it as, it's like an old white woman, older white lady getting her turn. Well, she's Secretary of State, so she's put in the time kind of thing. And that just doesn't excite. It may win a primary, but it doesn't excite very much. And Carrie Lake is crushing her with independents. Crushing her. As a matter of fact, do we have that here? Do we have that here? Yeah, Hobbs leads among urban voters, but trails among rural and suburban voters. Men prefer Lake, 44.6 to 32.8, while women back Hobbs, 43.2 to 34.6. The Lake leads with non-two-party voters or independent and third-party voters. Lake leads 40 to 30. That's a pretty big early independent lead. So I actually think that Lake is the overwhelming favorite for November at this point. I really don't think that Hobbs has a prayer in hell. I just don't. I think I trust Robert Barnes when he says Trump and DeSantis will be running together, but what do you think? And how well do you think they'll poll? I think that Trump and DeSantis, Aaron, are an unbeatable ticket. I think they're an unbeatable ticket, and they're gonna crush whoever the Democratic ticket is. I also apparently, Robert is not the only one who's heard that. I think I actually do even know where Robert got that from. I could simply make a call and ask, but they're not going to tell me, right from the trough anyway. I think it's safe to say that is probably true. I do. And I think that it's also safe to say that DeSantis 2024 push is an effort to cause division with these two men because they're terrified of Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. Absolutely terrified. By the way, what would the House and Senate look like in 2024 if the ticket is Trump and DeSantis? It would look like an absolute bloodbath. It'd be scorched earth, no man's land. I have been watching Remington Research push BS polls for their clients all cycle. I saw them do it in Ohio. I saw them do it in Pennsylvania, and in different congressional races all over the country. The fact is, Greitens was ahead in every poll from Trafalgar to the local media polls, and Remington Research had him in third, behind, of course, Eric Schmidt, which is their client, their Rove client, their Karl Rove client. So the fact that they have him in third again and Eric Schmidt ahead again really shouldn't be any surprise, because even when Greitens was overwhelmingly the leader in everyone else's poll, Remington Research still had him down. And by the way, they were doing it to Blake Masters. Until eventually the crowd, starting with Fabrizio, who, has done a lot of work for Trump's endorsed candidates. Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, and somebody said, how is Ducey's pollster? I think at this point they just copied and pasted Big Data Poll. It's literally the same undecided number, folks. I really think they went over. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. I think they went over the episode on Friday, and they basically copied and friggin' pasted what we had on the screen. And people are giving me this. I'm just reading some of the messages from people. Yes, our fearless leader has COVID. Our fearless leader has COVID. Double boosted, triple vaxxed. Anyway, so let's get on with it. And the bottom line is, whoever the Republican nominee will almost assuredly have 9 in 10 base support at least when we get to November. It is a pro-Republican year. We are not going to be seeing any historical firsts like that, no matter who the candidate is. This is a first-term incumbent midterm, and while this is rather common for early polling during competitive primaries, it is almost unheard of for it to remain throughout the general election cycle. All right. Of those who are undecided in the governor's race, 42.7% strongly disapprove the job Joe Biden is doing, and only 7% strongly approve. Overall, the president is underwater with this group, 27.5 to 66.1. That's horrible, but it's not as horrible as it is in Blake Masters' race against Mark Kelly. Mark Kelly basically needs only those people to show up. The electorate is looking like it's going to be like R4, R5, maybe even more. Republicans are so much more certain to vote. All right. And when we even looked at, by the way, let's see if we can pull these crosstabs up. When we even looked at, yep, there they are. Okay, let me stop sharing, and then let me share the crosstabs themselves. We can look at the voter model right now, actually. Because, again, some of these consumer panels are really being misleading. And I know this is hard to see, guys. I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit here. Okay, hold on. Zoom in a little bit so I don't lose it. But voting likelihood. Okay. As you look, Republican age groups are far more likely to want to vote. All right. It's more than just ideology, party, race. It's the groups themselves. 90% of Republicans are certain to vote. Only 83% of Democrats are. Okay? By ideology. Conservatives are 90% likely to vote. Only 83% of liberals are. And 78% of moderates. And one thing for Republicans, however, is that they need this some associate to get out because the working class is a little bit less enthusiastic. The reason why I was going over some of the numbers on the CD Media poll, reason why graduate and 4-year degrees swing a little bit back Republican this time is because of who is more likely to vote and who is not. Postgrads always vote. They always vote. This is why I'm telling you, it's like every time there's a new issue that comes up, the issue of the day. I don't remember which poll it was, but I saw somebody was like, well, the Republican lead has shrunk on the generic ballot because abortion voters. Those voters vote anyway. It'll be back in no time. Right, Nicholas. They always vote. It is the working class that may or may not vote in elections. Yeah, look. These people are, I'm looking at some restoring integrity and trust in elections. Yeah. Anybody can come up with a cute name. But the Win Row Bar crowd, they don't give a damn about trust in elections. When they say that, what they really mean is, well, I'm trying to be careful. What they really mean is, move forward. Forget about everything and just move forward. All right. Let's see. Let's see. What else do we have here? The Republican generic ballot. Let's take a look at that on CD Media. Okay. Where are you? Yeah. I mean, it's a total. I'm looking at some of the headlines. Just an absolute, you know what show, ladies and gentlemen. It is. It's so tragic. It is so tragic. All right, let me search for it. Already off the front page, El Tado? Man, you guys put out a lot of news. That's why. Should keep the poll up there, though. Here we go. Let's take a look at the generic ballot on CD. Currently, right now, this is a devastating loss for Democrats. They're going to lose like every single seat that's competitive in Arizona. They are. And for people who don't know what they did in Arizona, the new map versus the old map, we put it up for you. Okay? Republicans hold an enthusiasm edge, and undecided voters strongly disapprove of Biden. Same story. But when it comes to the generic ballot, that's why they call it generic, right? When it comes to the generic ballot, people tend to vote their partisan leans, and they tend to pick their partisan leans a little bit earlier, which can kind of tell you how some of these people in the end are going to decide when it comes to the Senate. All right? And the governor, too, less so, but all politics is local. Tip O'Neill, he really meant gubernatorial elections. All right. Maricopa, Republicans are leading 50-39. That's incredible to me. That is seriously bad news for Democrats. In Pima, Republicans, even with 11% undecided, are just about at their normal historic vote share, whereas Democrats are lagging it significantly. So you can expect Pima to be tighter than it typically is. All right. Do I think Republicans are going to win it? No. The rest of the state, Republicans are killing Democrats, 55-39. So this is the story pretty much everywhere and what you can expect when we get closer. Overall, 49-40. When we get closer to November, Labor Day rounds that corner, you're going to start to see those people. That sentiment will bleed through into the Senate races. They will. And I will tell you, with the exception of our polling, Blake Masters is not going to have a polling advantage. The public media university polls, they can't poll Arizona for crap, never could. For years, they overestimated Republicans. And now for the last 4 cycles, they've underestimated Republicans. They cannot reach that Joe Rogan voter, as Charlie Kirk called them. And it just so happens they're a huge part of Blake Masters' coalition. All right. Maricopa, 60% of the vote statewide. So for it to be going 50-39 for Republicans is devastating. All right. Democrats lead in Pima. We went over this. This is the old map. 4 solid Dem Biden seats. The new one is 3 solid Dem Biden seats. 3 solid Trump GOP seats are still 3 solid Trump GOP seats in the new map. The difference is one was solid Dem Biden is now competitive. All right, so it went 3-3-3. So 4-3-2, 3-3-3. For a race that's decided by 0.2%, that is not gerrymandering. Allowing small geographic areas with high population centers to dilute vote shares from other less populated areas because you're basing your map drawing only on population alone is gerrymandering. Nowhere in the state of Arizona's constitution or anything does it say you shall only take population into consideration. County integrity, geographic landmarks, this stuff matters too. And there's a reason why it's supposed to. Because you're supposed to not only represent different populations of people, but different cultures, beliefs, etc., etc. Just like you couldn't use white votes to dilute black areas during Jim Crow and the like, you can now not use urban areas to dilute the white vote, which is what Democrats did in many, many other states, including New Mexico, Oregon, on and on. So this gerrymandering concept, as if Florida is like gerried or something. In case people haven't been paying attention, Democrats have lost every single stronghold in the state of Florida except for 2. That's it. They no longer have bastions, 4 or 5 bastions around the state. They're on the verge of losing Miami-Dade. They have Broward County, and they have Alachua County. And even Alachua is only Gainesville that makes it blue. The surrounding area of Alachua is red. Anyway, we talked about the enthusiasm model. This is why it matters. It does. Men prefer the Republican candidate 54.7 to 35, and women are split 44 0.2 to 43.8, basically statistically insignificant at 44. The last election in which the two-party vote split among women was 2010. A year, obviously, the GOP posted historic gains in the U.S. House. All right. Of those certain to vote, Republicans lead 52.3 to 39.8. Democrats lead, although small, 38.2 to 34.4 among the lower propensity potential midterm voters, which are less than certain but greater or equal to 50-50 likelihood. White voters back Republicans 54-36, while Hispanics still slightly lean Democrat 46 to 39. That's nothing, though, after Democrats took that vote by 24 points in 2020, supposedly. Independent and third-party voters support Republicans 44 to 29.9, 30%. So it's a 14-point lead. The generic ballot, again, this is worth pointing out. The generic ballot could also signal deep trouble for the first-term incumbent Democratic Senator Mark Kelly. As the CD Media Big Data poll previously reported, Kelly is fighting for his political survival in the U.S. Senate against Republican frontrunner Blake Masters. The incumbent holds a slight 3-point lead, 43.7 to 40.6, with 8.8% opting for someone else and another 8% undecided. But again, when you look at who is undecided and how they feel about Democrats and Joe Biden right now, it is not good news for Mark Kelly. The relationship between presidential approval ratings and midterm performance for their party candidates is well established. President is deeply unpopular in the Grand Canyon state, and that dissatisfaction will weigh down Democratic candidates up and down the ballot this fall. His overall approval rating was 36%, and disapproval skyrocketed to 62%. Roughly half, 49.5% of all likely midterm voters strongly disapprove of the job he's doing as president, while 13.3% strongly approve, resulting in an intensity of negative 36.2. Of those who are undecided on the generic ballot, 43.6% strongly disapprove of the job Joe Biden is doing, and another 25.4% somewhat disapprove. Just over a quarter combined approve of the Democratic president. It's a big deal. Big deal. And while we're at it, let's take a look at gubernatorial and let's look at mode. Where's mode? Why isn't mode in here? Did I not save? Phenomenal. I didn't save. Hold on. Let me save this because I wanted to show you guys this. I really did. I was talking my cute daughter. She goes over polls with me. She's like, "What does this mean, Daddy? What does that mean?" And yesterday we were looking at it together. She saw it. A 10-year-old girl. 10-year-old girl saw it. She was like, "Why, Daddy? Why are these numbers different depending on how they took the survey? Do people take surveys, Daddy, differently?" I'm like, "Oh my God, you're smarter than the pollster for the New York Times, and you're 10. Oh my God. Yes, honey. They do, honey. Indeed. All right. Survey data mode. I thought I put this in here. Okay, voter enthusiasm. Let's put it after county. Okay, let's do that. If I can get it in there, for the love of God. Come on. Lately, it's been pretty difficult to figure this out. There we go. Saving it. And let's refresh this now. Oh, you guys actually can't even see this, what I'm doing. Okay, let me get rid of this. And let me put back up the crosstabs. I want to show you something. And then we're going to go. But I want to show you this. Don't forget to visit CD Media, by the way. Check out those polls. There are some really cool polls going up today. We had polled on database is huge. Okay. We will have up today ballot initiatives for in-state tuition for non-citizen residents. Yes or no. Which also repeals Proposition 300, I think. Something like that. I'd have to go back and look at how the survey was worded. But that was from, I think, 2006 or 2008. It's in there. Which basically bans in-state tuition for illegals. All right. People are not here legally, or people who are non-citizens. And then voter identification requirements for mail-in ballots and in-person voting measures. That will be up as well. It will make it beefs up verification procedures. Create the office of lieutenant governor amendment, which it's like makes the ticket presidential ticket in the state of Arizona, and makes it so the lieutenant governor will take over for the governor in the event the governor can no longer serve. The Constitutional Amendments and Ballot Initiatives Amendment, which means it requires for votes like this, statewide referendums, and for constitutional amendments, it requires a 60% supermajority to get done. Right now, if any of these measures get a simple majority, they will pass in November. In the future, if the Constitutional Amendments and Ballot Initiatives Amendment, if that passes, then it will require it to be a 60% threshold. All right. We're going to have those four. It's going to be very cool. So keep an eye out for it. All right. And let's show it by mode here. So if we go to mode, all right. And as you can see, it's basically everybody was reached SMS. It's just a matter of how you decided to take it. All right. If you go to Senate, you can see Blake Masters leads 45-38 among the. And I'm just being honest here. I like mixed mode because I like to reach different people at different rates with different modes, because that's how the world works. That's how polling works now, whether people want to admit it or not. But that's why you have mixed modes. All right. Whereas the OSPs and ISPs are getting more liberal. All right. So this happens to be more accurate. It is more accurate. All right. Even when they take them through OSP, I want them to be contacted here. And that's why it's a little bit misleading on what's what. But you can see that Masters leads 45-38. In the gubernatorial, Kerry Lake leads 43-35. You'll also notice there's a bigger undecided. All right. Republicans lead in both on the generic ballot, but the P2P is a lot wider. I think in the end, we got a pretty good result from both. And we reach groups pretty representative. And I don't know if you guys took a look at the map, but you can actually see if you want to check out. Hopefully, we'll be getting Mapline soon. Mapline is a super cool tool. We're going to go in here, but Mapline is a super cool tool where you'll not only be able to see where people are that took the survey, you'll be able to hover over them. There'll be a little dot. It's going to say, this is a guy. He's taking the survey right now. 30 to 44 years old or whatever he is. Actually, you're going to get his or hers actual age. Anything we may know about them beforehand, that'll be put up and loaded up. But the entire survey, you'll be able to see how each participant answered each survey and where they are. So I'm super stoked for that. I can't wait for that. That's how I want, especially with the public polling project, which if you haven't contributed to, consider doing it. Share it far and wide. I'd love to get a new poll before the summer's over here. Yeah, definitely. I'm going to love this. And I think you guys are as well. And that is what I want the standard to be on Big Data Poll when we push out the public polling project. All right. So with that, I wanted to get this in. Thank you to our guest, Blake Masters, for joining. I know it's hard for these people, these candidates, to get out there. I'm going to see if we can't get Kerry Lake on too to discuss what's going on. And I thought, we bring on more candidates. All right. I think that at least while the elections are going, that's something we can, that's something we can do. We can add to it. And maybe that'll even fuel interest in races, polling for races. All right. So with that in mind, follow me on Getter at People's Pundit on Getter. Connected my Twitter account finally. So that's cool. It makes life a lot easier. But follow me both places if you got in both places. If not, follow me on Getter. Same on Truth. At People's Pundit on Truth. On Twitter, it's at People's_Pundit. And you can follow the best producer ever on both Truth and Getter at Laura Batters. Her handle is always in my thing, by the way. So if you follow me, go check her out. She's a lot more snarky than I am. So that's it. All right. We're on YouTube. If you liked the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. You can Rumble. Give it a little Rumble Plus. Definitely sign up. You never know. We're back on YouTube today, folks, but you just never know. All right. And I'm not going to police. It's impossible to police what you guys say. Unless I start airing a lead time, maybe 30-second delay or something, there's no other way to do it. So in the meantime, just follow me on Rumble. People's Pundit on Rumble. Huge views on that episode, about 2 weeks ago, blowing up Kevin McCarthy. Little fake plans to take out MAGA and America First, and counting seats, not counting votes for speaker, not seats. Oh yeah, that one got shared far and wide. Got a lot of Rumble subscribers with that one. Keep it up. And on Getter, of course, if you're on Getter, you can watch a stream live to Getter, which is becoming an awesome audience, right? Team Getter. That's right. It was like, I don't even know. Friday was like 10K or something, Laura. I don't know. But praise Getter. We didn't have any push today. Normally Getter will let you know when I'm going to go live, but this was a smaller makeup show, and I didn't tell them we were going on. So you guys didn't get the notice you normally got, but sorry about that. That was totally on me. All right. So with that in mind, I'm out. We'll see you Wednesday. We'll go over some more of this in detail. Okay. There's a lot more to it. Keep your eye on cdm.press, Creative Destruction Media. Right? And that is where you will see the results for the ballot provisions. Very interesting. I'm amazed that some of these proposals are going the way they're going. And even with so many people still being undecided. And I mean, people, it's early for the midterms. There are a lot of undecideds. But you can clearly see that pass or fail is leaning one way or the other at this point. Okay. All right. So keep an eye out for that. You guys will enjoy that as well. All right. I'm out like trout. What are you going to say, Laura? Deuces. All right, guys. We'll see you soon. All right. I'm going to take us out of here. Wednesday, noon, Eastern Standard. Oh, tonight. Quite frankly, it's our time. It's quite frankly Monday. Don't forget. I'll tweet it. I'll getter it. I'll truth it. I'll post it. Don't miss, quite frankly. Frank and I got a lot of great stuff to talk about today. We'll talk about Arizona, but we have a lot of other stuff we're going to talk about. We got the list of things, and it's cool. It's going to be a good one. All right, which is partly why I'm not doing 2 hours today, because I want to save my jaw for Frank. I don't want to ruin my jawline before be like, Frank, sorry, I can't do it. It's swelled up. I had to cancel a book club yesterday. I look like a ridiculous chipmunk. Getting better though, slowly but surely. Right? What? I don't know yet. I got to get with Owen and Elon about that. All right, book club makeup. Maybe we'll be able to do it tomorrow. All right, but I have to get with Owen and Elon and see if we can do it. All right, and it's good for everybody. I don't want anyone to miss it just because we're trying to make it up. Once you get lost in a book, it's hard to catch up. All right, but we'll keep you posted. All right, folks, see you tonight, quite frankly, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then Wednesday, noon Eastern Standard Time. All right, all the best, folks. See you soon.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride. Steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be